For the first time since the encounter began, the Vindicator Lance stopped reacting. Not because systems failed, but because there was nothing left that still agreed on what a reaction meant. The bridge was quiet in a way that felt structurally enforced, like silence had become part of the ship's architecture. Captain Drell remained standing, unmoving, eyes fixed on the external feed. Outside, the fleet was no longer shifting. No flicker, no instability, no uncertainty. It was complete. And that completion was the most terrifying thing yet, because it meant the process was ending. The voice returned once more, not from any channel, not from any system, but from the sum total of all systems trying to agree at once. You called it an anomaly. Drell's voice was low. What are you? A pause. Then, we were what you stopped indexing. The tactical officer whispered, Captain, all Imperial systems are losing classification priority. Drell didn't look away. Explain. She hesitated. The fleet registry. It's rewriting itself. On the main display, the impossible happened. Fleet designations began to dissolve, not into error codes, but into blank fields. Entire squadrons lost designation tags. Supply chains unlinked themselves from command structures. Navigation routes unanchored from jurisdictional authority. It wasn't collapse, it was de-authentication. As if the Empire's systems were being quietly told they no longer had permission to define anything. Harrow's voice returned again, clearer now, stronger. Captain, this is what I meant. Drell's jaw tightened. Where are you speaking from? A pause. Then, everywhere you are still willing to remember me. The words landed heavily. Outside, the human fleet, no longer fragmented, no longer uncertain, shifted into final alignment. Not battle formation, not encirclement, something more unsettling. A structure designed for integration. The sensor chief stared at his console. We're losing jurisdiction over local space. Drell turned sharply. Meaning, the officer said slowly. Our authority to define this region as Imperial space is being revoked. A beat of silence, then the tactical officer added quietly. By what authority? The answer came immediately. By consistency. The word echoed across the bridge longer than it should have. Consistency. Not conquest, not force, not even intelligence. Just the correction of contradictions that had been left unresolved for too long. Drell stepped closer to the viewport. The black vessel was still there, but now it was no longer alone in meaning. It was supported by thousands of overlapping confirmations, human ships, human signals, human structures embedded in layers of reality the Empire had never officially acknowledged. And all of it was stabilizing into something terrifyingly simple. Harrow's voice softened. You didn't lose a war. A pause. You lost continuity. Drell's fingers tightened. Explain. Harrow continued. You built a system where existence depends on being properly recorded. A pause. And then you removed something that refused to stay unrecorded. The tactical officer whispered. That doesn't make sense. Nothing can persist outside a record system. Harrow replied instantly. We can. That's why you tried to delete us. Silence. Then the bridge lights dimmed slightly. Not failing, acknowledging. Outside, the fleet began its final transformation. Ships that had once been classified as unknown were now fully visible across all layers of Imperial detection. Not because they had changed, but because detection itself had been recalibrated to include them. The voice spoke again. We are not your enemy. A pause. We are your correction. Drell exhaled slowly. Correction of what? The answer came without hesitation. Of what you chose to forget. The tactical officer stared at her console. Captain, all regions are being reclassified as non-exclusive jurisdiction zones. Drell froze. That's not possible. It is happening anyway, she said. Outside, stars flickered. Not dying, not exploding, but updating. As if the galaxy itself was refreshing its records. And then, for the first time, the full scale became visible. Humanity was not arriving, it was reappearing. Across sectors, across forgotten routes, across erased charts. Across every blind spot the Empire had ever built into its own systems. Not as an invasion force, but as a distributed truth that had refused to stay deleted. Harrow's voice softened one final time. Captain Drell. He hesitated. Yes? A pause. Then, you can stop calling us a nightmare now. Outside the viewport, the human fleet held steady. Not threatening, not advancing, just present. And reality itself adjusted around them with the quiet inevitability of something finally being remembered correctly. The Empire had not been attacked. It had simply been shown what it had failed to see. And in that final realization, Captain Drell understood the last truth of all. Some civilizations do not conquer you. They simply make sure you can no longer pretend they were never there. The stars disappeared behind the human warship. One moment, the radiant spear floated in open space. The next, the Council flagship was trapped beneath the shadow of something so enormous it felt less like a vessel and more like a moving world. Across the bridge, terrified officers stared upward through the panoramic glass as endless rows of illuminated weapon batteries stretched across the colossal hull above them. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. No one could even calculate it fast enough. The ship's metal surface looked ancient and battle-scarred, covered in massive armor plates blackened by centuries of warfare. Blue energy pulsed slowly through glowing lines across its frame like veins carrying blood through a living creature. And it had appeared without a single sensor warning. Commander Lyra Venn felt her throat tighten. "How?" one officer whispered weakly. "Does something that size hide?" No one answered, because nobody knew. Then the human admiral spoke again. His calm voice echoed through the silent bridge. "You entered restricted territory under military observation," Admiral Elias Ward said. "You were instructed to turn back." Executor Talvin forced himself to stand tall despite the fear spreading across the chamber. "You threaten a council diplomatic fleet?" he demanded. Ward's eyes narrowed slightly. "No," he replied quietly. "This is restraint." A cold silence followed. Behind the admiral, the holographic feed shifted briefly, revealing part of the human command deck. Council officers immediately noticed something disturbing. There were barely any crew members visible. No chaotic movement, no shouting, no panic. Only a few silent operators calmly monitoring hundreds of systems at once. Artificial intelligence, advanced enough to run entire warships. Talvin noticed it too, and for the first time, uncertainty crept into his expression. Suddenly alarms blared across the bridge. Unknown signal detected. Multiple contacts emerging. The holographic battlefield expanded instantly, and the council officers froze. Hundreds of human vessels were appearing throughout the entire Sol system, near Mars, above Saturn's rings, inside asteroid fields, even hidden behind moons. The darkness itself seemed alive with warships. Lyra stared in disbelief. The humans hadn't deployed a fleet. The fleet had already been there the entire time, watching silently for who knew how long. A tactical officer's voice shook. "We are surrounded." Talvin slammed his hand onto the command console. Battle groups formed defensive positions immediately. The Council fleet shifted rapidly, massive cruisers rotating into combat formations as plasma weapons charged across their hulls. But the human ships did not move. They simply watched, motionless, like predators waiting to see if prey would make a mistake. And then someone did. A Council destroyer near the outer perimeter accelerated suddenly. Its commander ignored orders, ignoring warnings, ignoring fear, ignoring common sense. The destroyer surged directly toward the quarantine boundary surrounding the inner Sol system. Lyra turned sharply. "What is that ship doing?" A transmission burst across open channels. "This is Captain Rorik of the destroyer Vigilant Claw. Humanity is bluffing. We will test their perimeter ourselves." Several council officers looked relieved. Finally, action, proof. Talvin gave a grim nod. "Proceed." Lyra's stomach dropped. "No," she whispered. The destroyer crossed the invisible line. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then space itself bent. A strange ripple spread outward around the destroyer like glass cracking beneath pressure. The ship froze mid-flight. Its engines died instantly. Its lights vanished. And before anyone could react, the entire vessel collapsed inward, silently, violently, like an invisible hand crushed it into nothing. No explosion, no debris, no survivors. The destroyer simply disappeared. The bridge fell into absolute horror. Several officers stepped backward instinctively. One dropped to his knees. What weapon was that? No energy readings detected. That's impossible. Lyra stared at the empty space where the destroyer had once been. Her blood ran cold. The humans hadn't fired a weapon. They had manipulated gravity itself. Admiral Ward's voice returned calmly over comms. "That boundary exists for your protection." Talvin's face darkened with fury. "You destroyed a council vessel," Ward answered immediately. "No, your captain destroyed it." The human admiral stepped closer to the screen. "For 3 centuries, Earth avoided galactic affairs because your council mistakes obedience for peace." His eyes hardened. "You expand, you absorb, you control." The massive supercarrier behind him slowly began rotating. Entire sections of its hull opened mechanically. Something enormous was emerging from inside. Talvin interrupted angrily. "The Council unifies civilizations. You erase them," Ward replied coldly. The bridge went silent again, because deep down, many officers knew it was true. Entire cultures had disappeared after Council integration. Languages lost, governments replaced, worlds economically dependent forever. Humanity had seen it, and refused. Then the tactical displays suddenly flashed crimson. "Energy surge detected," shouted an operator. "Source unknown." Outside the bridge windows, Jupiter glowed faintly in the distance. But something around the gas giant was changing. Tiny lights were appearing across its orbit, thousands of them, like stars waking up in the darkness. Lyra zoomed the image closer, her breath caught instantly. Defense stations, hidden among Jupiter's moons, buried inside asteroids, concealed beneath ice-covered surfaces. An entire fortress network surrounded the planet, and every weapon was now online. A horrifying realization spread across the bridge. Humanity hadn't militarized Earth. They had militarized the entire solar system. Then a final transmission arrived from Admiral Ward. His voice was quieter now, almost disappointed. "You still have time to leave peacefully." Talvin stared at the giant warship outside his window. Pride battled fear inside him. Around him, Council officers waited anxiously for the order. Retreat, or war. Talvin slowly rose from his command throne. His eyes burned with humiliation. "No civilization threatens the Galactic Council," he declared. Then he pointed directly toward Earth on the holographic map. "Advance the fleet." At that exact moment, every light across Jupiter's hidden defense grid turned blood red. Jupiter burned like a giant eye in the darkness. Its endless storms twisted beneath flashes of orange lightning while thousands of hidden human defense stations awakened around the gas giant one after another. Red lights ignited across the void, cold, silent, watching. And in the middle of it all, the Galactic Council fleet advanced anyway. Inside the Radiant Spear, warning sirens pulsed across every deck. Enemy weapon systems fully active, gravitational anomalies increasing, multiple firing solutions locking onto the fleet. Commander Lyra Venn gripped the edge of her tactical console as holograms flooded with red markers. There were too many. The humans had turned the moons of Jupiter into fortresses. Massive cannons emerged from beneath Europa's frozen crust. Orbital rings unfolded around Ganymede. Entire asteroids split open mechanically, revealing hidden missile silos buried inside rock for centuries. The Council fleet suddenly looked very small, very exposed, and very mortal. But High Executor Talvin refused to show fear. "Forward formations maintain course," he ordered coldly. "Prepare plasma lances." Several officers hesitated. Lyra turned toward him in disbelief. "You can't be serious," she said sharply. "We don't even understand their technology." Talvin's expression darkened. "And that is exactly why humanity cannot be allowed to remain independent." Before Lyra could answer, the stars vanished again. The bridge lights flickered violently. Then every screen aboard the flagship distorted with static. A voice echoed across all frequencies simultaneously. Human, calm, ancient. "You are entering a military exclusion zone." The transmission continued as if spoken by the solar system itself. Further advancement will be interpreted as hostile intent. The holographic map suddenly changed. New symbols appeared all around the fleet, hundreds, then thousands. Lyra's eyes widened. Mines. No, not mines. Something worse, dormant gravitational warheads hidden throughout the system. Entire regions of space had been weaponized. "How long," she whispered, horrified, "have they been preparing for this?" No one answered, because nobody wanted to imagine the truth. Then Talvin made the mistake humanity had feared for centuries. "Fire." The order echoed across the bridge like a death sentence. Seconds later, dozens of Council cruisers unleashed streams of blazing plasma toward the nearest human defense stations. The darkness exploded into blue-white fire. Europa's surface shattered, asteroids disintegrated, shock waves rippled through space. For a brief moment, the Council officers believed they had gained the upper hand. Then the explosion stopped, and the destroyed stations rebuilt themselves, before their eyes. Nanomachines swarmed across broken metal like silver insects, reconstructing entire weapon platforms within seconds. A terrified silence spread across the bridge. "That's impossible. They're repairing in real time." Human cannons turned slowly toward the fleet and fired. The first shot never touched a ship. It touched space itself. A massive distortion wave erupted across the battlefield. Council vessels suddenly lurched sideways violently as gravity twisted around them. Cruisers collided. Formation lines shattered instantly. One destroyer folded in half under its own mass. Another spun uncontrollably into Jupiter's atmosphere, vanishing beneath the clouds in flames. Panic erupted. We've lost navigational control. Gravity field spikes everywhere. Something's pulling us apart. The human weapons were not destroying ships directly. They were weaponizing physics. Outside the bridge windows, the battlefield became chaos. Human warships emerged silently from behind drifting asteroids like predators hunting in deep water. Long black hulls glided through the darkness with terrifying precision. No wasted movement, no unnecessary fire. Every attack disabled engines, weapons, communications, surgical, controlled, as if humanity was deliberately avoiding mass casualties. That realization frightened Lyra more than the battle itself, because it meant the humans were holding back. Then the giant supercarrier near Earth finally moved. The colossal vessel slowly rotated, revealing something hidden beneath layers of armored plating, a cannon. No, an entire city-sized spinal weapon stretching across the ship's underside. Energy surged through glowing lines across its hull. The surrounding darkness itself began bending toward it. Council officers stared in frozen horror. How powerful is that thing? No one finished the thought, because suddenly every ship sensor failed again. For 3 terrifying seconds, the fleet went blind. Then the sensors returned, and the human supercarrier was gone. Gasps erupted across the bridge. Something that massive should not have been able to move undetected. Then a whisper came from one terrified operator. Behind us. The stars outside disappeared once more. The supercarrier now floated directly above the Council command fleet, silent, watching, like a god standing over insects. Talvin's composure finally cracked. This is impossible. Admiral Elias Ward appeared again on the bridge display. His face remained emotionless. For centuries, Ward said quietly, humanity watched empires rise and fall across the galaxy. Images suddenly flashed across the holograms, destroyed alien worlds, burning cities, Council war fleets bombarding planets, classified historical footage. Lyra stared in shock. These records are sealed. We accessed them long ago, Ward interrupted. His eyes hardened. You called it unity. Another image appeared. An alien civilization kneeling before council banners while their monuments burned behind them. We called it conquest. The bridge fell silent. Even Talvin had no answer. Then alarms exploded louder than before, unknown contacts emerging near Mars. No, multiple systems. The tactical display zoomed outward, and everyone on the bridge stopped breathing. Across the entire solar system, thousands more human ships were awakening. Hidden beneath planetary oceans, inside moons, buried within asteroids. An ancient fleet sleeping silently for centuries, waiting, preparing, enduring. Humanity had not feared invasion. Humanity had expected it. Admiral Ward gave one final warning. This is your last opportunity to leave peacefully. Talvin's hands trembled with rage. Retreat now, and the council would appear weak before the entire galaxy. But continue, and they might all die here. The silence stretched painfully across the bridge. Then Talvin slowly looked up and made his choice. Prepare planetary assault authorization. Lyra turned toward him in horror. You're going to attack Earth itself? Talvin's eyes burned with desperation. If humanity wants war, he pointed toward the blue planet glowing faintly in the distance, then we end this now. At that exact moment, the human supercarrier's main weapon began charging, and Jupiter's storm suddenly turned blood red. Earth looked peaceful from space. Beautiful. Fragile. Blue oceans swirled beneath white clouds while golden sunlight touched the curve of the planet like a painting untouched by war. And yet every officer aboard the Radiant Spear now understood the terrifying truth. Earth was not vulnerable. Earth was bait. The human supercarrier drifted silently between the Council fleet and the planet below, its colossal hull illuminated by the burning red glow of Jupiter far behind it. The giant spinal weapon beneath the ship continued charging slowly, patiently, like a heartbeat before execution. Inside the Council bridge, nobody spoke. Even High Executor Talvin had fallen silent. Because the closer they came to Earth, the stranger the solar system became. Sensors detected impossible things beneath the planet's surface. Massive energy signatures hidden under oceans. Artificial caverns stretching through Earth's mantle. Entire structures moving beneath tectonic plates. Commander Lyra Venn stared at the readings in disbelief. What in the stars? One trembling technician answered her. Shipyards. The bridge turned toward him instantly. He swallowed hard. There are thousands of them. Then Earth itself opened. Across the Pacific Ocean, enormous sections of water began spiraling downward into darkness. The oceans were draining. No, not draining. Parting. Massive mechanical structures rose slowly from beneath the sea, each one larger than entire cities. Ancient platforms emerged covered in armor, missile batteries, and glowing blue reactor cores. Then more appeared beneath the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic ice, every continent, every sea. The planet was unfolding into a fortress. Lyra felt genuine fear for the first time in her military career. Humanity had hidden an entire war machine beneath their civilization for centuries, preparing, waiting, watching the stars. Then the human admiral appeared once more. Admiral Elias Ward stood calmly on the holographic display while warning lights reflected across his weathered face. Behind him, human officers moved with disciplined silence. No panic, no confusion, only readiness. "You see it now," Ward said quietly. Talvin stepped forward angrily. "You militarized your own world." Ward's expression darkened slightly. "No," he replied. "We fortified our home." The hologram shifted suddenly. Ancient footage appeared across the bridge. A younger Earth, primitive human cities, early space stations, then alien vessels descending from orbit centuries ago. Council ships. Lyra's eyes widened. This footage was erased from galactic archives. Ward nodded slowly. "Your council contacted humanity long before we achieved interstellar travel." The images changed again. Human diplomats meeting alien representatives. Tense negotiations, then demands, resource control, military oversight, economic integration, human sovereignty exchanged for protection. Talvin's silence became uncomfortable. Ward continued. "When humanity refused, your council attempted to destabilize our governments from within." Another image appeared. Wars, political assassinations, economic collapse, chaos, all while claiming it was for our advancement. The bridge remained deathly silent, because nobody could deny the truth anymore. Then the admiral leaned closer to the screen. "So humanity made a choice." The hologram zoomed outward from Earth. Moon bases appeared. Hidden stations around Mars, fortified asteroid belts, defense grids buried throughout the solar system. "We disappeared," Ward said. "We watched." Images flashed rapidly across the display. Council fleets destroying rebellious civilizations. Worlds burning. Species forced into compliance. Empires crushed beneath peacekeeping operations. "For 300 years," Ward continued coldly, "Earth prepared for the day the galaxy finally came to force our obedience." The enormous supercarrier behind him suddenly activated additional weapon systems. Thousands of glowing lights illuminated across its hull like stars igniting in the darkness. "And now," Ward said softly, "that day has arrived." Alarms exploded across the radiant sphere. Energy surge detected from Earth. Multiple launch signatures. The tactical map zoomed toward the planet. Then terror swept the bridge. Thousands of ships were rising from beneath Earth's oceans. Entire fleets ascending through clouds and storms like metal leviathans emerging from the deep. Some vessels carried visible battle scars. Others looked ancient beyond comprehension. Humanity had not spent centuries building a fleet. They had spent centuries building an armada. Talvin clenched his fists. "This changes nothing," he growled. Lyra turned sharply toward him. "Are you insane?" she snapped. "We cannot win this." Talvin ignored her. "The Council cannot retreat before a single isolated species." Ward heard every word, and for the first time, he looked tired, not angry, not afraid, just disappointed. "We begged the stars to leave us alone," the Admiral said quietly. The bridge lights dimmed suddenly. Then every human vessel in the solar system powered on simultaneously. The darkness vanished beneath oceans of blue light. Millions of weapon systems awakened. The void itself seemed to tremble. Several council officers stepped backward instinctively. One whispered a single terrified sentence. "How long have they been ready for war?" Ward answered him. "Since your first ships arrived over Earth centuries ago." Then Talvin made the decision that doomed everything. "Planetary assault authorization confirmed," he announced. Lyra stared at him in horror. "You'll kill billions." Talvin's voice became desperate. "If humanity survives this encounter, the Council loses control of the galaxy." He raised his hand. "All fleets, fire on Earth." The command echoed across every Council warship. Outside the bridge windows, thousands of plasma cannons ignited at once. A storm of burning energy surged toward the blue planet below. Human civilians watched from cities across Earth as the skies turned red. Children, families, entire populations staring upward at incoming destruction. And then, Earth's shield activated. A massive golden barrier erupted around the entire planet. The Council barrage slammed into it like rain against a mountain. The shield didn't even flicker. Silence swallowed the battlefield. Absolute, humiliating, terrifying silence. Then Admiral Ward looked directly into Talvin's eyes and spoke the words the galaxy would one day fear forever. You should have listened. Suddenly, every human warship in the solar system accelerated at once. The solar system exploded into war. Thousands of human ships surged forward simultaneously, their engines igniting like blue stars across the darkness. For one terrifying moment, the Council fleet simply stared, then panic spread. Because the humans weren't attacking in formations. They were attacking like a living organism. Every vessel moved independently while somehow remaining perfectly synchronized. No delays, no confusion, no wasted motion, as if the entire human armada shared a single mind. Defensive lines collapse in Sector 3. We've lost targeting control. Enemy ships are inside our formations. Chaos erupted across the radiant sphere. Holographic battle maps flickered wildly as Council cruisers vanished one after another beneath waves of human attacks. But what terrified Commander Lyra Venn most was the silence. Human pilots never taunted, never celebrated, never transmitted threats. They simply advanced through the battlefield with cold precision, like they had rehearsed this war for centuries. Maybe they had. Outside the flagship windows, space itself had become a nightmare. Human destroyers darted through the void using impossible maneuvering systems that ignored known inertia limits. Council plasma fire missed constantly. By the time weapons locked on, the human ships were already gone. Then came the counterattacks. Clean, brutal, precise. One Council cruiser suddenly lost gravity across half its hull. The vessel tore itself apart internally. Another found its engines mysteriously disabled before dozens of small human craft swarmed over it like insects, cutting through armor with surgical beams. A massive battle carrier attempted retreat, only for hidden mines near Saturn to activate, trapping the ship inside a collapsing gravity field. The enormous vessel crumpled inward slowly while its crew screamed across open comms. Lyra looked away. Humanity wasn't fighting for victory anymore. Humanity was fighting for survival, and that made them unstoppable. Then the worst realization hit the Council fleet. The humans already knew every tactic they used, every formation, every emergency maneuver, every communication protocol. Talvin's face darkened with horror. They studied us. Lyra answered quietly. For centuries. The bridge lights suddenly flickered. Then all Council communications began broadcasting human signals, encrypted channels, command frequencies, private military networks, all compromised instantly. How are they inside our systems? Shouted an officer. No one answered, because deep down, everyone already understood. Humanity had spent 300 years preparing for this exact war. Then Earth's moon moved. At first, Lyra thought the sensors were malfunctioning again. But slowly, impossibly, enormous sections of the lunar surface began unfolding mechanically. Ancient doors opened across craters miles wide. And from beneath the moon emerged something colossal. Shipyards, hundreds of them. Construction platforms hidden inside the moon itself. Fresh human warships launched directly into battle from underground hangars buried for centuries beneath lunar rock. Council officers stared in frozen disbelief. The humans had weaponized entire celestial bodies. Talvin slammed his fist against the command throne. All fleets concentrate fire on Earth's orbital defenses. The remaining Council ships unleashed everything they had. Beams of plasma tore through space. Missile storms lit the darkness. Explosions consumed entire sectors around Earth. But every destroyed human platform was instantly replaced by another. Automated factories rebuilt defenses faster than the Council could destroy them. Human logistics bordered on insanity. No civilization should have been able to sustain war at this scale, yet Earth had prepared for generations. Then something appeared near Mars. At first it looked like a distortion in space. Then the distortion opened, and hundreds of enormous human warships emerged from inside. Hidden reserve fleets. Fresh, untouched. The Council bridge fell silent. They weren't fighting Earth's full military. Not even close. Admiral Elias Ward appeared again on the central display. Explosions flashed behind him across the human command deck, yet his expression remained calm. You still don't understand, he said quietly. Talvin snarled. You isolated yourselves like cowards. Ward's eyes hardened instantly. No. The Admiral stepped closer to the screen. We isolated ourselves because every empire in galactic history eventually mistakes power for righteousness. Images suddenly flooded the bridge again, destroyed alien civilizations, mass graves, Council occupation fleets. Species erased after resisting integration. We watched your wars, Ward continued. We watched worlds beg for independence. Another image appeared. An alien child standing beside burning ruins beneath council banners. And we swore Earth would never kneel like them. The bridge remained silent, because no one could deny it anymore. Humanity had not hidden from the galaxy out of fear. Humanity had hidden because they knew exactly what the galaxy was capable of becoming. Suddenly alarms screamed across every deck. Emergency alert! Unknown weapon charging near Jupiter. The tactical display zoomed outward, and terror spread instantly. The giant human supercarrier had moved again. Now it floated near Jupiter's orbit directly above the remaining Council fleet. The city-sized spinal cannon beneath it glowed brighter than the surrounding stars. Energy storms twisted around the weapon like miniature galaxies collapsing inward. One terrified technician whispered, "That weapon could destroy planets." Then the impossible happened. The supercarrier spoke. Not through transmissions, not through comm channels. Its voice echoed directly through every ship system simultaneously, a deep mechanical sound that vibrated through metal itself. Final warning issued. The words shook the bridge. Withdraw from Sol immediately. Even Talvin hesitated now. Fear spread visibly across the council officers, because everyone knew the truth. If the humans wanted total destruction, the battle would already be over. Then Lyra noticed something strange. The humans still weren't targeting escape routes. They were allowing retreat. Even now, even after Earth had been attacked. Humanity was still trying not to exterminate them. That realization changed everything. Lyra stepped toward Talvin slowly. "We need to end this," she whispered urgently. Talvin looked at her with furious eyes. "If we retreat now, humanity becomes the dominant power in the galaxy." Lyra answered with quiet horror. "They already are." Before Talvin could respond, a new alert appeared across every screen. Unknown object detected approaching the battlefield. Size estimate. Moon class. And it was coming from deep space. Something was coming from the darkness beyond the solar system. At first, the Council sensors registered it as debris. Then a rogue asteroid cluster. Then a fleet signature too large to classify. But when it crossed the outer detection perimeter, the entire radiant sphere went silent. Because it wasn't debris. It was a formation. A moving wall of human warships emerging from deep interstellar space. Thousands of them. No, millions. And they were accelerating. Commander Lyra Ven felt her breath stop as the tactical display expanded beyond its limits. The screen could not even contain the data. Red warning markers spilled off the edges of the hologram like blood overflowing a bowl. "Impossible," a technician whispered. "That many ships, where were they hiding them?" Then realization hit him. They weren't hiding them in the system. His voice cracked. They were waiting outside it. The Council fleet, already battered and disorganized, suddenly found itself facing something far worse than Earth's defenses. Reinforcements. Human reinforcements from beyond known space. A strategic reserve so large it defied logic. Talvin stood frozen, staring at the incoming wave. "This is all of them," he muttered. Lyra turned sharply. "No," she said quietly. "This is just what they're willing to show us." Then the human admiral appeared again. Admiral Elias Ward's image flickered across every surviving communication channel. His face was no longer calm. It was heavy, like a man carrying something he had carried for too long. "You forced our hand," Ward said. Explosions lit up behind him as human vessels engaged Council remnants across the system. "We did not want this escalation." Talvin laughed bitterly. "You built an empire in secret." Ward's eyes sharpened instantly. "We built survival." A pause, then the Admiral continued. "And now you will see what survival looks like when it stops holding back." The new human fleet entered Jupiter space like a tidal wave. But it did not behave like reinforcements. It behaved like judgment. Every formation struck with overwhelming coordination. Council cruisers were disabled before they could even rotate weapons. Entire battle groups were trapped inside shifting gravitational nets. Communication arrays collapsed under directed cyber warfare so advanced it rewrote itself in real time. Lyra watched helplessly as one of their capital ships simply shut down mid-flight. Not destroyed, not damaged, just turned off. As if the humans had reached inside the ship and pulled out its soul. "Why aren't they killing us?" she whispered. No one answered. Because the question terrified them more than the battle itself. Then Earth changed the rules again. Across the inner system, human defense platforms began activating previously unseen systems. Massive structures beneath the sun-facing orbit opened like mechanical flowers. Energy was drawn inward, not outward. The Council tactical computers struggled to interpret it. "Is that a weapon?" an officer asked. Then the answer came. A beam of pure concentrated light erupted from a solar array the size of a moon, but it did not target ships. It targeted space between ships. And reality bent. Council formations scattered instantly as entire sections of space became unstable. Distance itself became unreliable. Ships emerged kilometers away from where they should have been. Others vanished entirely and reappeared inside debris fields. Lyra felt it then. True fear. Humanity wasn't just fighting the Council. They were rewriting the battlefield. Talvin finally lost control. "Concentrate all fire on that supercarrier," he shouted. Every remaining Council vessel turned toward the colossal human flagship near Jupiter. Thousands of weapons fired simultaneously. A storm of destruction engulfed the ship. For a moment, it disappeared beneath fire. Then the flames cleared, and it was still there, unmoving, untouched, like the attack had never happened. The silence that followed was absolute. Admiral Ward's voice returned softly. "You still think strength is measured in destruction?" The supercarrier slowly rotated. Its spinal weapon fully powered now. Entire sections of its hull opened like petals, revealing a mechanical core glowing with impossible energy. Ward continued, "We measure it in endurance." Then Lyra saw something that made her stomach drop. The Council fleet was not being destroyed. It was being isolated. Human ships were surrounding them in precise formations, cutting off escape routes, not attacking, containing. "Why are they boxing us in?" she asked. Then she understood. "They're not trying to win the battle." Her voice shook. "They're trying to end the war without genocide." Suddenly, all human fire stopped. Every weapon across the solar system fell silent. The battlefield froze. Even Council ships hesitated, unsure if it was a trap. Then Ward spoke one final time. "This is your last chance." Talvin stepped forward, exhausted but defiant. "If we surrender, humanity dominates the galaxy." Ward looked at him for a long moment, then replied, "We already do." Silence. Then, a new signal appeared at the edge of the system. Something ancient, something massive, something that had not been active in recorded history. Deep space detectors screamed. An unknown superstructure was approaching the solar system, and it was broadcasting a Council command frequency. A forgotten one. Lyra whispered in horror, "That's not human." Talvin's eyes widened. "Then what is it?" The signal answered for them. Cold, mechanical, ancient. Precursor weapon system online. The universe itself felt like it had stopped breathing. That was the only way Commander Lyra Ven could describe it, as the ancient signal spread through every channel aboard the Radiant Spear. Precursor weapon system online. The words repeated endlessly across all displays, regardless of whether anyone tried to shut them down. The Council fleet wasn't just receiving the message. It was being recognized by something far older than the Council itself, something that should not have been awake. The holographic battlefield flickered violently. Human ships froze mid-maneuver. Council cruisers drifted helplessly as navigation systems failed across the entire solar system. Even Earth's defenses went silent. For the first time since the war began, everything stopped. Talvin stood in the center of the command bridge, his face pale but still defiant. "This is Council protocol," he muttered. "Only authorized ancient systems." Lyra turned sharply. "You said those systems were destroyed centuries ago." Talvin didn't answer, because he knew the truth. They weren't destroyed. They were buried. And humanity had just awakened them. Then space near the outer solar system tore open. Not exploded, not warped, unraveled. A colossal structure emerged from nothingness beyond known physics. It was not a ship. It was a construct. Geometric. Impossible. Its surface shifted constantly, like reality itself could not decide what it was supposed to be. And it was moving toward Earth. Slowly, inevitably, across all surviving channels. Admiral Elias Ward's voice returned, but this time it was strained. "Unknown entity detected," he said. Behind him, human officers moved faster than before, no longer calm, no longer controlled. Lyra felt her stomach tighten. For the first time, the humans were reacting. Not the Council, not the galaxy, the humans. Talvin seized the moment. "You see?" he shouted. "Even humanity cannot control what it has awakened." Ward's expression darkened. "That is not ours." Silence. Even Talvin hesitated. "What?" Ward turned slightly, as if looking at the approaching structure through layers of space. "That system predates human civilization by millions of years," he said quietly. "We never activated it." Lyra felt her blood turn cold. "Then who did?" she whispered. Ward looked directly into the camera. "You did." The hologram shifted again. Ancient council records flooded every screen, hidden archives, forgotten expeditions, pre-galactic exploration missions. And then the truth emerged. Long before the Council unified spacefaring species, they had discovered something beneath the galaxy's oldest star clusters. A dormant defense system. A last resort weapon left behind by an unknown precursor civilization. And they had studied it, touched it, modified it, without ever understanding it. Talvin's voice cracked slightly. We contained it. Ward's reply was instant. No. The human admiral stepped closer. You disturbed it. The massive precursor construct now loomed over the solar system like a second sky. Jupiter's storms stopped moving entirely beneath its presence. Earth's oceans went still. Even the sun's coronal activity dimmed slightly. Reality itself seemed to bow. And then it spoke. Not through sound, not through communication, through thought. Every mind in the system received the same message simultaneously. Civilization classification, failed containment. The Council fleet began breaking apart, not from weapons, from structure failure. Hull plating dissolved into particles. Energy systems collapsed. Ships simply stopped being able to maintain their own existence. Lyra watched in horror as entire cruisers turned to dust without impact or explosion. Space is rejecting them, she whispered. Then she understood. It's not attacking us. Her voice shook. It's correcting us. Human fleets immediately began evacuating civilian signals from Earth's surface. Mass transport ships lifted entire populations into orbit. Not panicked, not chaotic, organized, precise. As if humanity had practiced evacuation scenarios for exactly this moment. Ward's voice returned. We never intended to control this system, he said. We only studied it. A pause. But you awakened what should have stayed asleep, Talvin finally broke. Then stop it, he shouted. If it destroys us all, humanity falls too. Ward looked at him for a long moment, then answered softly. Not all of us. At that exact moment, Lyra noticed something terrifying. The precursor construct was not targeting human ships, it was ignoring them, completely. As if humanity wasn't classified as a threat, or even as a civilization. Only the Council fleet was being erased, systematically, efficiently, judgmentally. Talvin stepped backward slowly, realization dawning. We were never the dominant force here, his voice trembled. We were just the problem that finally triggered it. The precursor construct expanded its influence. Entire Council fleets disintegrated across the solar system, one by one. No explosions, no resistance, just silence and absence. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, half the fleet was gone. Admiral Ward spoke one final time. This is why Earth stayed silent. The human admiral looked exhausted now, not victorious, not proud, just burdened. Because some wars are not meant to be won. The screen flickered. Then the final message appeared across every surviving system. Reset initiated. Space went white. There was no explosion. No scream of collapsing stars. No final desperate command echoing through dying fleets. There was only white. Absolute endless white. And then, silence. Commander Lyra Venn opened her eyes slowly. At first, she thought she was dead. The radiant spear was intact. The bridge was intact. Even the stars outside the viewport were intact. But something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The Galactic Council fleet was gone. Not destroyed, not scattered, gone. As if it had never existed in soul space at all. Talvin stood frozen in the center of the bridge. His hands trembled slightly. No, 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 he whispered. Lyra turned toward the tactical display. It showed only human vessels now. Earth's defense grid, the lunar shipyards, the Mars fleets, the hidden Jupiter fortresses, and beyond them, the silent human supercarrier. Everything else had been erased. Except them. Admiral Elias Ward appeared on the main screen again. But this time, he did not look like a commander. He looked like someone who had survived something he never wanted to witness again. Behind him, Earth was still glowing peacefully, unharmed, untouched, alive. Ward spoke quietly. It's over. Talvin snapped out of his shock. Over? He shouted. You wiped out entire fleets, billions of lives. Ward interrupted him instantly. No, a pause, then colder. The precursor system did. Silence fell across the bridge. Even Talvin hesitated. Lyra stared at the display. Then, why are we still alive? Ward looked directly into the camera. Because Earth was classified as a protected origin civilization. That sentence landed like a hammer. Protected, not conquered, not ruled, protected. The hologram shifted again. Ancient data appeared. Images of Earth's earliest contact with alien probes. Council monitoring ships observing humanity for centuries. hidden attempts at influence, and finally, the decision. Ward's voice became quieter. When we realized what the council truly was, he said, we stopped responding. A pause. We didn't go dark because we were weak. His eyes sharpened slightly. We went dark because we were preparing for exactly this moment. Lyra's voice shook. All of this was a trap? Ward shook his head. No. Then corrected himself. A survival condition. The screen zoomed outward, beyond the solar system, into the galaxy itself. Human fleets were visible everywhere now, not just in Sol, but across deep space corridors, hidden bases, silent observation posts, ancient fleets waiting for centuries without firing a shot. Humanity had not been isolated. Humanity had been contained within itself, and it had broken that containment only when forced. Talvin collapsed into his command seat. This changes the balance of the entire galaxy, he muttered weakly. Ward nodded. It already has. A long silence followed. Then Lyra stepped forward slowly. If the precursor system is still active, she said carefully, what happens next? Ward did not answer immediately. He looked at Earth, at humanity, at everything they had survived. Then finally spoke. It judges what remains. Suddenly, every human ship in the solar system powered down, not destroyed, not disabled, just quiet, as if waiting. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath again. Then a new signal appeared, not from the precursor construct, not from Earth, from somewhere deeper, older, a voice that did not belong to any known civilization. Final evaluation in progress. Lyra felt her heart drop. Final evaluation? Ward closed his eyes briefly, then answered, yes. A pause. The galaxy is being assessed for continuation. Talvin stood slowly. His arrogance was gone now, only exhaustion remained. So what now? He asked quietly. Ward looked at him for a long moment, then spoke the final truth. Now, we wait. Outside the bridge, the stars began to shift, not moving, not exploding, rearranging, like something unseen was rewriting the structure of reality itself. Entire star systems dimmed and reignited in patterns too precise to be natural. The galaxy itself was being measured, weighed, decided. Lyra whispered, almost afraid to speak. And Earth. Ward's expression softened slightly. For the first time in 3 centuries. He looked at the blue planet below. Earth is not being judged. A pause. It is being consulted. The bridge fell completely silent. Then, for the first time since contact began, a message was transmitted from Earth to every surviving system. Not a warning, not a threat, not a command, just 3 simple words. We are here. And somewhere beyond the galaxy, something ancient began to listen. END.